And when you look at, for example, the London Metals Exchange, in terms of silver, as an example, it's easier to understand. They trade 20 million ounces of gold a day. They will tell us on the LBMA, the 140-year oldest commodity trading hub in the world. And they trade 200 million ounces, 192 million ounces of 290 million ounces of silver per day on the LBMA. But the funny thing is that they say those numbers are 10% or 10 times understated, which in essence will tell you, because they only post the final settlement numbers, that they're trading 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, which is 90 to 95% paper contracts. That's 3.5 times annual global mine supply, and would tell you they're trading 200 million ounces of gold per day. These numbers are so far away from the amount that they actually have in the vaults. It gives them the ability to depress and distort the price and incentivize people to think, yeah, there is no greater tool of misdirection than price. And, people don't have the time to open up the hood and look and see that it's actually a squirrel on a wheel chasing a nut to make the car go. Car looks great from the outside till you open up the hood. And that's exactly what the rest of the world, see, the world is wise to the game that the West has been playing. That game that the West has been playing is rehypothecation of assets. It's a Ponzi scheme. And in other words, the commercial banks at the behest of the central banks have unlimited funds and have been able to distort the real value of these hard assets. These hard assets are not commodities like we are led to believe. They are monetary assets that reflect the frailty of the currency in the system that they stand behind. Problem is that they have blurred so much the reality that gold and silver are monetary metals and actually do stand behind the system in the respect of its valuation. When we talk about something that's easy to understand, what I mean by that, I'll just give you a little interesting tidbit as it pertains to what I mean by backing the system. This is probably as clear as it would get. In 1970, $1 million was equivalent to 1,700 pounds of gold. Today, $1 million buys you 27 pounds of gold. And so is it that the price of gold went up, or is it the dollar that we value things against has gone way down?
Mainstream narratives treat gold and silver as mere commodities, raw materials traded like copper or wheat. In truth, they've always served as monetary anchors. The distortion begins when powerful financial actors suppress their value to prop up fiat systems. In 1970, $1 million equaled roughly 700 pounds of gold. Today it buys only 27 pounds. Which changed, the dollar or the metals? The erosion of fiat currencies has made gold appear expensive, but in many ways it's the currencies themselves that have collapsed.
What was, when you were a little girl babysitting, when you were 12 or 13 or 15 or 16 years old, what was a $20 bill worth? What was a $100 bill worth? What's it worth today? As an adult and a mother, what's it worth? It's worth a whole lot less, and less by the day. And so when we talk about, gold is not going higher, the currencies are being debased more and more and more and more. And so what the West has been doing in suppressing the price of gold and silver to maintain this illusion of supremacy of currency and of bond market, to keep the illusion going, the game going, enriching the bankers who want us all to think that the only road to retirement is paid with dollar bills and mutual funds and stock certificates and loans in order to buy our house and our cars and live beyond our means, further enriching the elite, the bankers, the 1%. They've been doing that specifically knowing that gold and silver aren't just commodities, but they are the canary in the monetary mine shaft. And so what you see is the very wise and now motivated and now coordinated and now sophisticated and now very wealthy countries of the global South that for a long time were third world are now uniting in a realization that this is how you win. You beat the West not through cruise missiles and war drums, but through draining of all of the strategic commodities through the back door, because these exchanges give you the ability to stand for delivery.
Behind the polished veneer lies a concerted effort by central banks and commercial banking networks to distort the pricing of monetary metals. Through massive short contracts, derivatives, and paper trading platforms, they exert downward pressure on gold and silver prices. This illusion supports the narrative that paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds are the only rational path to wealth. Meanwhile, real savings held in fiat are quietly being eroded. The longer this rig persists, the more profound the imbalance becomes.
And when you look at, for example, the London Metals Exchange, in terms of silver, as an example, it's easier to understand. They trade 20 million ounces of gold a day. They will tell us on the LBMA, the 140-year oldest commodity trading hub in the world. And they trade 200 million ounces, 192 million ounces of 290 million ounces of silver per day on the LBMA. But the funny thing is that they say those numbers are 10% or 10 times understated, which in essence will tell you, because they only post the final settlement numbers, that they're trading 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, which is 90 to 95% paper contracts. That's 3.5 times annual global mine supply, and would tell you they're trading 200 million ounces of gold per day. These numbers are so far away from the amount that they actually have in the vaults. It gives them the ability to depress and distort the price and incentivize people to think, yeah, gold and silver don't mean anything anymore, and blur the real value of the currencies that we are holding our life savings in, that continue to be eviscerated year over year over year. Go back to 1970 in that example I gave you, and you don't even have to look at how much the gold weighed for $1 million. Just what's the value of $100? In 1973, my father bought his first Corvette for $6,000, a Stingray convertible Corvette for $6,000. That car's $130 now. So did the car get more expensive, or the dollar become worth less? And by distorting the value of gold and silver, where silver can be just above half of what it was priced at in 1980, because it has so many strategic uses that the military industrial complex and the elite don't want us to understand, especially as it relates to the value of currency.
The tide of awareness is shifting. A growing coalition of nations in Africa, Asia, and Latin America recognizes that the path to breaking free from Western financial hegemony isn't through military confrontation, but through smart control of strategic assets. By demanding physical delivery rather than paper promises, they drain liquidity from speculative exchanges. These moves lay the groundwork for new monetary frameworks that prioritize real backing over empty credit. The stage is set for a new paradigm.
That they suppress it, and it worked for a long time. The fly in the ointment now is that all of these countries figured this out, and they're coordinated, and they are sophisticated, and they are motivated, and they are standing for delivery, draining the exchanges, which will allow them to back a new system, buy commodities, and more likely gold. And the way to show the immutability, because we have been anything but forthright in the way we conduct all of our affairs, and far from transparent, is to marry that ideology with blockchain technology and say, show to the whole world, here it is. We have nothing to hide. We're backing our system. We will no longer make the same mistakes and fall into the same traps and pitfalls that all of the politicians and monetary economists have done since the beginning of time. And that's how you would transition to a new system that would inspire confidence immediately. And I think you're right. This is where we're going. It's interesting you say it, because there was a very interesting interview, and I don't know how I would have answered that before I heard it. I remember last summer I was living here in Florida. I was in my swimming pool on the raft with my AirPods and listening to podcasts to prepare for, my upcoming week's shows. And I listened to everyone, including you. And Bick Swear did a very interesting interview, 3-part interview with a man named Jack Sermon, who is 72, 3-year-old guy that's been at the U.S. Mint since its founding in 1986. Wow. And is the person who developed the Silver Eagle program. Yep. And I was blown away in listening to it. To your point, could we be stockpiling? And he, for 2020, 2021, 2022, and most of 2023, the silver American Eagle was as rare as hen's teeth.
One poignant insider account comes from a veteran of the U.S. Mint's bullion division. Despite a legal mandate to supply unlimited Silver Eagle coins to meet demand, he claims he was directed to restrict production to the bare minimum. In late 2021, when distributors requested 36 million units, only 12 million were delivered. This admission raises questions. Where did the missing silver go? Is this withholding part of a broader strategy to conceal reserves or manage sentiment? The hidden inventory becomes just as significant as what's declared.
And the prices or the premiums on them nationwide were as high as $15, $16, $17 over the price of silver. Wow. And as one of only 27 U.S. Mint authorized resellers, the Mint has meant the world to me. And I would tell people, don't do it. You can't buy it. It's too stupid. It's too expensive. You can't buy it. You got to buy silver bars or something else. I hated saying that. And then I hear this interview. And Jack says to Bix, look, he said, I was approached by my superiors. Now, who would his superiors be? Well, that would be it's the Treasury Department. It'd be Janet Yellen. Janet would have said to him this. He said, I was told to only, first of all, the Silver Eagle, when the Mint was founded in 1986, the charter, the law, that's law, says that they have to make and produce as many Silver Eagles as is demanded by the public, period. That's law. Well, he admitted, I almost fell off the raft when I heard this. He said, I was told by my superiors to make the smallest amount of Silver Eagles he could possibly make without creating a massive public outcry. In other words, they told him, do not make what we're supposed to do, just make just enough to not have them come storm the gates with, picks and axes and pitchforks. And then he said, I used to be on the other side of the table, Bix. I was an authorized participant, meaning he worked for one of the big bullion banks or one of the companies that would buy large amounts, the primary distributors. And he said, I know how that works. He said, this would have been at the end of 2021, towards the end of it. And he said, they told us, the distributor said they'd take another 36 million Silver Eagles and we only gave them 12, a third of what they wanted. That, again, illegal, right? So what the hell were they doing with all the silver? Where was it going? Why was he told to do that? Are they stockpiling it? Do they understand that it's not an industrial metal? It's a strategic metal. It is needed, and it is depleting, and it is decreasing. Where did all Saddam Hussein's gold and silver go, or Gaddafi's?
All these threads converge around a possible turning point, a new system backed by real assets and enabled by digital infrastructure. The BRICS nations, for example, are exploring a currency model anchored in gold and national currencies. Some proposals suggest 40% backing in gold, 60% in fiat basket. If executed with transparency and legitimacy, such a move could realign global power, resist currency debasement, and offer nations real alternatives to dollar dependency. The financial world may be nearing one of its most consequential inflection points.
How about the $12 billion in gold the Ukraine sold when they funded the war at the very beginning? Where is all of this stuff? And why haven't we updated Fort Knox in the better part of 70 years? The holdings, we haven't audited it. Why? And so there's a lot of mystery shrouded in all of this. But I would hope, as crazy as things are becoming and as transparent as it is becoming to me, that this is the road that we are heading down, that they would have at least been smart enough to, especially, in a world where you can create money like that, they're too stupid to fund FEMA, for God's sakes. We're being told that FEMA's out of money. I'm living in Florida, and the biggest hurricane, the fifth biggest on record, is bearing down on the coast tomorrow, but FEMA's out of money, right? Because they've spent it all on illegal immigrants. In a world where you can create money like this, you would think they would have at least had the hollow gesture of stockpiling things like that instead of blowing it all across the globe the way that they are. They've given 180 billion to Lebanon instead of letting the people in North Carolina suffer and starve and die. You would wonder, are they smart enough to have at least decided that, yeah, this is where we're going, we better stockpile gold and silver? And to your point, the only way that I think that they can alter things would be to beat the BRICS and the Chinese to the punch, because one of the other groups is going to issue a system pegged to gold. I do believe that. We've already gotten validation of that from the former president of Brazil and the head of the New Development Bank, Dilma Rousseff. This is no small fry. This is a very influential, important woman who has told us, in principle, we've agreed to it. Well, it's 40% gold backed. So how close are they to issuing it? Well, the BRICS meeting is in 2.5 weeks. Does that mean that the West will beat them to the punch? Oh, they better hurry up if so. But yeah, I think that is where we're going, Sarah, and it will have profound impacts on everyone's standard of living if they beat us to the punch, which will precipitate or necessitate some sort of an event as the world dumps dollars and treasuries because they no longer need to own them. That's a big deal. I guess we'll see how it all plays out, but it is coming to a conclusion of some sort here pretty quickly.